Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys another Draft League discussion video. Today we have an interesting one. This was spawned by, shout out to Keegan. Keegan rage baiting me and pinging me in Smogon General, where they were discussing that they thought, or not everybody, but some people were discussing that they thought that Zama Crowned was unbannable in Scarlet and Violet Draft League, and it should be allowed. Because Terra Ghosts exist, which we'll talk about more later on. I find that very silly, but it also had me thinking, what would people do to shake up the format right now? Which Pokemon would they either ban or unban in SV if they could just pick one thing? That's what today's Twitter discussion will be about. We're going to be reading a lot of your guys' responses, and I'm going to be giving my thoughts and opinions on that. If you guys do enjoy these kinds of videos, these Draft League discussion videos, be sure to drop a like on the video as well as subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 5K subs. Big goal of mine, and I'd really appreciate it if you help me out in reaching that goal. Really have a smaller creator like myself, so go ahead and hit that sub button. And yeah, that being said, we can jump right into it. Again, it's going to be my thoughts and opinions on what people think. I will try and be like, I'm obviously going to be respectful, not try. I'm going to be respectful of people's opinions, but I'm going to give my reasons why I think they're correct or incorrect. I will preface this with saying I'm a Scarlet and Violet Glacier. I think this is the best draft format that we've ever had. Could be like recency bias. I could in 5 years be like, wow, Gen 9 sucks, shout out Gen 10, or shout out Gen 7 again, kind of thing. But I've played a lot of draft, and SV is by far my favorite. I think it's a very, very balanced and fun metagame right now, and I definitely think that is going to come across in a lot of my opinions, as I don't think a lot should be banned or unbanned. So we'll see why I disagree with most of these things. But yeah, that being said, let's jump it up. First, of course, we have J-Bear here saying ban OGalbina. That would make sense. Other people could win more if I wasn't allowed to play. So I do understand that. Good call, J-Bear. So this first one, agree with right off the bat. Make it a little bit more fun for everybody else. Next up, we have A12 here saying ban Terra's Root. It's unfun to prep against unless you give it the right. Unless you guess the Terra right, the Root does nothing. If you guess the Terra right, the Root does nothing. But if you get it wrong, can win off preview. Part of why it's underperformed recently. It's a gamble. Unban Reshiram. It's kind of slow and awkward typing defense. Okay, I am of the opinion that Terra's Root is unfun and not like very intuitive to prep against and play with and things like that. I actually did ban it in one last ride. I do think I am on the minority opinion on that. I think it is like the most unfun mod in SV draft, and I think it can feel very, very it can feel very Mickey. Excuse me. Prepping against it and things like that. It does feel like a guessing game a lot of time. Am I going to get the Terra type right? Is it going to be like offensive SC? Is it going to be bulk up Spit F? Is it going to be synth? Is it going to be jungle healing? Whatever it might be. Is it going to be the annoying max Spit F set that you can't kill? Or is it going to be like super fast, outpace a lot of special offense? Lots of really, really annoying things. It seems like it really can beat anything. It's just you have to have a couple things to beat it. And that doesn't seem fun to me. Reshiram though. We got a problem, A12. That is not one I am going to agree with you on, unfortunately. Let's look at this guy. I know Gen 9 is the gen of power creep, but holy moly, I don't know if these stats are quite allowable, my friend. I don't know if they are. Obviously, it did lose Roost this generation, but you have 150 special attack, ridiculous bulk, ridiculous bulk. And you have obviously Blue Flare and Draco and Earth Power for random Heatrans and things like that. But obviously Focus Blast, Overeat's another strong option, Scorch Sins, I guess, kind of thing. So plenty of things in that regard. So whether it be boost 4 attack sets, spec sets with proper removal, I mean what do you do about switching into this thing? And the thing else I don't think people realize is it has 120 attack, right? So those Flare Blitzes and those, does it get Heat Crash? Heat Crash is probably really, really strong in this Pokemon. I want you to put this into perspective. It is stronger from the physical side than Gouging Fire. Now, I am a Gouging Fire hater. I think this guy sucks. But it is a stronger Pokemon from the physical side than Gouging. It does get Dragon Dance. It 100% does. So not only do you have to contend with these ridiculous Blue Flares and Draco Meteors, you also have to contend with potential DD variants or mixed variants and things like that. So there really is no defined answer to this. I get it. It's a terrible Uber. But man, we can't be allowing this guy, we simply cannot. So I'm gonna say no on that one personally. I'm gonna say no on that one. Next up, we have Scoo here saying, get Dragon Bolt the hell off the Google Doc. I agree. I think in the Greater Showdown scene, I don't think I've seen a Bolt allowed in years at this point. But Wi-Fi seems to be very split 50-50 on whether or not Pulse should be allowed. At this point, all the leagues that I run, all the tournaments that I run on Wi-Fi has no Pulse allowed, but another ones you will see allowed. The common argument for allowing Pult that I'll see is it doesn't OHKO into a kill everything immediately the entire game, but it doesn't need to if it's positioned properly. It's entirely unpunishable with proper positioning and play. Entirely unpunishable. It's too fast. Most spammable stab in the game. Crazy status, crazy momentum. I'm faster than 99.9% of the game as well. So I think it's incredibly too broken. But yeah. Next up, we have Guile, if I'm saying that right. I could not be. Here saying, I have no idea what standard/mainstream SV draft board looks like, but I second the suggestion of unban Terra Volcarona on the condition I get it. I will not lose to Mirror Prophet. Yeah. So at least seems like a joke one. I think Keegan also puts it. Terra Volc is very broken. We're not allowing Terra Volc. Quiver Dance is already like, you know, a top 3 or a top 1 setup move in the game outside of like Geomancy, right? And part of the reason it is very like it doesn't feel overwhelming is because of the fact that it's on bug types, right? And bugs typically don't have a great defensive profile, so it's very hard to find those free setup opportunities when we can change the Terra on our Volk and be like very fizz def sets with, you know, good defensive typings or gain that extra coverage, whatever it may be. Yeah, Volk is very broken with Terra, so I'm sure they know that too. Next up, we have Gravy here with an interesting one saying, I'm on the banned Iron Valiant train at the moment. Give it the Dragapult treatment. I don't think anything else needs to go. Terra Torn maybe and Terra Bolt as a push on, but I'm in the minority of people that think the highest Terra Captain should be lower. I see little fun Terra Urshi / Sarud. Yeah, I think like fun. I get that. You know, everybody has like their different perspective on fun. I don't think they're broken at all. But I think Valiant is definitely fair. Valiant, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Valiant because it's not a Pokemon where I ever feel like I auto lose when I play into it, right? Where that's how I feel when I play Pult. If the Pult player plays and drafts correctly, they have matchup in 9 out of 10 matchups. And I think that's definitely frustrating. Valiant, I don't quite see it as well. I still think Valiant requires a lot of skill in the builder and in play, but it is incredibly overwhelming, and it is incredibly good. There's no such thing as a bad Valiant matchup, and that's for a reason. It's absolutely insane. So, yeah. Next up, we have Ellie also saying if Pult gets him and Val should be banned. Both are incredibly oppressive and boring to play against. I think, again, I understand this sentiment. I do, but I think Pult's on another level. I don't think that they should be like seen as equivalent in their brokenness, right? I really don't. I think that Val is a lot, and I also think Val is a little bit more fun to play against in the sense of like it does have a lot more set versatility than like Pult. Whereas like Pult can run different things, right? But like you're never actually seeing DD or Bandit, right? You're seeing either Specs or Boots. Specs or Boots are what should be coming in most games. The occasional DD, the occasional Choice Band or something like that, sure. The occasional mix, like, you know, Darts, Willow, Hex, U-Turn. I guess that is like the kind of the boot set, right? But yeah, I think Val is definitely a lot more like fun and intuitive to play against personally. Here's Keegan, unban Terra Volcarona. I would have so much fun. Keegan really wants this because the last time he made playoffs, he had Terra Volcarona. But yeah. Next up, we have K2 Slay here saying unban Lugia, no questions asked. I actually made a separate video on this. There's a big like push, I wouldn't say like a year back. Well, a lot of people were kind of like suggesting that Lugia should be tested and unbanned. I think it's actually a lot more nuanced than you'd think. You know, in your head you're like, fucking box cover. No, we're not allowing this guy. But it really does struggle in some matchups, like to be that bulky Calm Mind Sweeper that you think it might be. But where I disagree is when I like watched some replays of like Trick House where they did end up allowing and testing it in. People just ran like screens hyper offense, like offensive weakness policy Lugias with good removal. And it was like unbeatable. It was so hard to take down. It's serving as either like that emergency button or that one that just wins because it's still going to outspeed everything at 110 or most things. Nothing's going to kill it. It's going to like leverage its multi-skill really, really well. And it's just going to get an immediate boost with incredible coverage. While it might not be strong offensively with like base 90 or whatever it is, incredible coverage and high base power moves to where I think that kind of makes up for it. So I think Lugia is a little broken personally. But I do understand the sentiment. But yeah. Next up, we have Shuckle King here saying Terra ban Torrentine. I think this is somewhat fair. This is by far the best Terra Captain in the format, in my opinion. Like, by far, bar none. Not even close. But I wouldn't say it's unhealthy. It does kind of facilitate those, like, really bulky, balanced playstyles well. Like, those, like, Torrentine, Petront, Tinglu teams can be very, very frustrating to deal with. And Torrentine does have a pretty versatile bag. But it's never a Pokemon, again, that I feel like I can never beat. It is definitely, like, a top 3 Pokemon or like a top 5 Pokemon in the format. But I wouldn't say like Terratorn T is any more broken than like Iron Valiant would be, or any more broken than like a Meowscarada would be, for example. That might be a hot take by me. I think Meowscarada is 1 and 2. Like, it's like the second best Mon in the format. So yeah, King L5, dumb idiot here, saying, oh, I forgot to like one of them. I always try and like these, by the way, even if I disagree. Terra Valiant is not even that broken. All these babies need to stop complaining and allow it and give me first pick, ideally. Ideally, of course. Yeah, he's very dumb. Anyways, next up, we have Zthor here saying, unban Spectre. I want to see another 19-point ghost to replace Dragapult. That's not a good reason. We're not going to allow Spec. I do actually often see that, like, Spec isn't broken, blah, blah, blah. It's another guy that's, like, kind of seen as, like, I wouldn't say, I don't mean this in, like, a mean way, but, like, to newer players or less experienced players, it's like, okay, well, it doesn't immediately win because the dark type always checks it, or if there's a normal type, it stuffs it, blah, blah, blah. The amount of pressure that Spectre puts on the builder is unbelievably unhealthy to a higher point than Pult. I think it is better than Dragapult in that respect. If you can structure a solid team around chipping down and checking those dark types, and especially now that Spectre got access to both Drain and Kiss 4 darks and stronger neutral coverage and like even like a Terra Blast. But really it's just like Wisping, Calm Minding, Dash playing up, whatever it may be. Getting up hazards, chipping things down, exerting a lot of pressure, forcing awkward turns and KOs, and Spectre wins pretty much every matchup. There's very little that opposing teams can do in order to stop Spectre. So I personally do disagree. I think that this might be a halfway joke suggestion, but like I gotta comment on my like top 5 most under or overrated guys in SV video, and someone commented on it recently and was like, why isn't Fraud Spectre as this? Well, because that guy's broken as shit. So I figure I at least should mention it as if it was a serious point, right? Alright, next up, we have Powered by Platanos here saying, free the ice dragons from being Terra banned. They rarely get looked at in serious leagues, particularly bad, but with Terra, they can actually have longevity. Okay, so, no. I understand saying, like, Bax is not good without Terra. It's not. Kyurem is still good, by the way. Like, Kyurem gets drafted a lot. Very solid Pokemon. But it's not like a top tier threat like it used to be, especially with the Lost Roost. I get it. They are worse without Terra. That is not a reason to unban Terra, though. We don't ban things because, like, they're getting drafted too much. Or we don't unban things because Pokemon are not getting drafted. Or, like, un-Terra ban things because they're not getting drafted. They're Terra banned because they're broken with Terra, right? Unbelievably so. Bax becomes such a monster when it doesn't have its shitty defensive typing of Ice and Dragon. Becomes an absolute monster. Or it can boost up that Glaive Rush or, you know, get stabby, whatever it is. Bax is a ridiculous Pokemon, and I do not think that guy needs to be to have his Terra freed up. Ridiculous Pokemon. If you ever want like a Wi-Fi example, go watch BBR season 4. I think it was that J Bear won. It was a season that Joey and all of them played BBR. And he had Terra Bax that can only Terra into 2 typings. We were back in that era of draft league. And he smoked through everybody with that guy. Ridiculously broken. If you want an example for Kyurem, another Pokemon that's ridiculously broken with Terra, watch TGS Season 1. JCM Shadow had it, and oh my god, it was ridiculous. Oh my goodness, it was ridiculous. So, please do not. Next up, we have Fate here saying Terrapico is one of the biggest cheaters in the game. Lock it up, personal gripe. Also, Terra bans are getting out of hand. There's too many. What's the point of limiting Terra in a different or additional way, or admit the mechanic is too powerful? I don't think this is a fair thing to say. Well, one, the Terrapagos is personal gripe, that's fair. Terrapagos obviously is not broken. It's a great Pokemon. I'm a big Terrapagos glazer right now. I've been using it in DFL, which, like, I've been recording. That'll eventually go up as a movie. I've been recording, like, my build process and, like, immediate post-build process and immediate post-com after the games. And the main team I've been using is, like, Terrap Roaring Moon, Terra Moth, Terra Gliscor, and I've loved it. Such a great Pokemon. Having that emergency button, as well as such a strong, bulky, scary Pokemon like Terrapagos, awesome. Love that guy. Not broken, though. He's typically like a back wheel mon. But Terra bans, I don't understand. I don't know if I understand this, right? The mechanic obviously wasn't, like, built and balanced for singles play, right? So obviously you're going to have some Pokemon that are really broken with it, really busted with it. But I don't think that means you have to cut it out entirely because there's a handful of 15 Pokemon in the game, 10 to 15 Pokemon in the game that are really broken with it, because the mechanic overall is very healthy for Draft League. I think it's incredible. I don't know if any of you have played non-Terra Paldea decks. I did because I was originally on the Terra is Ridiculous train. played it. It was terrible. Having that offensive and defensive option to skew matchups back in your favor or make them a little bit more even is incredible. I think Terra in particular has made it to where the better player and builder wins their matchups more often. And I think that's a good thing, right? I think it's very, very easy to like be able to like swing matchups back in your favor and make ridiculous matchups not so ridiculous with proper building and planning. And I think that's a good thing. I think Terra has been overall very positive on it, but yeah. Next up we have Moses here saying, could experiment on banning Zelma Crown. Already starting to see it undrafted networks. Undrafted is crazy. Okay, so here's the Zamasi thing. And again, I talked about this in the Smokeout server when people were yelling about it. I super disagree on this one. I super disagree. Because whenever I hear unbanned Zamasi conversations, it usually comes from the context of Terra Ghost. You know, like we can Terra Ghost. But I think people kind of approach this conversation as if you are playing in a consistent 1v1. A draft league is a 1v1, and it is not a team-based format, right? You have 6 Pokemon. When you have the Zama, you can very justifiably plan for this, right? Plan for the Terra Ghost. One, you're forcing Terra Ghost very often. You're very much so forcing Terra Ghost very often. You have coverage options and crunch and things like that, and heavy slam. Behemoth Bash, whatever it may be. So it's not like Terra Ghost means wall unless you have a really bulky Pokemon with Terra Ghost. But one, you're forcing Terra Ghost. So that makes your build process easier. And you can support your team incredibly by doing so. People always talk about like Petron existing, so Zamasi wouldn't be very good. That's another argument I've seen. These like Petron, Goldango type guys existing, so that means Zamasi isn't good. The Zamasi guy gets to draft too. I hope we realize this. What do you do about Tinglu Pet Zamasi? Like, realistically, what is your plan into that team comp? You can't break through it. You can't kill that core. You cannot kill that core. With a well-timed wish or something like that, or a healing wish here or there, that core is basically unkillable in the hands of a correct player. And again, it's not like Zamasi is completely walled by ghost types. It's not like it only has body press. Crunch, Behemoth Bash, Heavy Slam, whatever it may be. On top of hazard support, on top of status support, things like that, bulky, balanced Zamasi teams would be unstoppable. You would win 80 to 90% of your games, in my opinion. And I think that's just not healthy. I think undrafted is really crazy. I'm not sure about the status of Natdex leagues or how broken things are or things like that, but being undrafted in those leagues is crazy. I think in the context of Paldea decks, though, no, not allowed. Not allowed at all. Speaking of not allowed at all, JMG unban Terra Garchomp. This will probably make SD scale sets too strong. Yep, pretty much. SD scale is like kind of iffy now. It still has great matchups. I love Chomp in Paldea decks. But like those SD scale shot sets would just win. Like defensive Terra SD scale, like loaded dice plus 2 coverage moves, you just win every game. It's that simple. It's that simple. Garchomp is great defensively, but one of the things that makes it like manageable is it's exploitable. Like its typing has like some pretty exploitable weaknesses, ice, fairy, things like that. Now you can't do that anymore. That's not good. So maybe like Terra Steel, Terra Fire, whatever it is. You can kind of flip those on their head and then you're good. You just win. Dragon, like factor dragons with like booster speed, like outrage and stuff like that, like a moon or something like that. But yeah. This may be a hot take, but as far as low tier Terra goes, ban the Kilowatts and Jolteons in that 10-point terrible range. Take them out and shoot the Terra eyes off their heads. I don't know ball in regards to this. I've not played like the low tier Terra format in like years at this point, or like a year plus. It could be the case. They're very fast, they're very strong, and I do notice that like people like typically in those formats super restrict the Terras, but then they let like these couple fast electric Terra and they seem to like always have 20 kills. So this could be true. I actually don't know. I don't play these formats very much anymore, but yeah. Next up we have Tosco for saying, I'd be interested to see how Terra Palafin performs. It seems somewhat comparable to Ogre Water, but without Grass Stab. Having the momentum loss and less utility in exchange for a harder hitter prio and not being locked into a Terra type. Yeah, but I think the big difference there is not being locked into a Terra typing. I think Terra Palafin was so broken when it was allowed in early gens, or in the early part of the gen, because it could Terra Water and punch you in the mouth into kill your whole team and go 2 for 1 with a bandit set pretty much immediately unless you did not have a water immunity, or you go those really nasty bulk up defensive Terra typings and you eventually win the game. Like you just eventually do. So I think that alone makes it not comparable to Ogre Pond. Yes, less utility, but like I don't know. And like the loss of momentum turn, if you're a proper build and you're playing correctly and you lead your Palafin and you switch it out, you have a Palafin, right? You might lose a little bit of momentum initially, but you can kind of draft and plan accordingly. So yeah, I'm not sure. I am sure. I disagree. Next up is Puppy Pone here saying, keep Terra Tornado's T banned. I don't know why we see that guy allowed all the time. Flying Stab is already the best in the game. Getting rid of the accuracy downfall on top of it on such a good Pokemon is silly. Why don't we just allow, when we don't allow stuff of a similar power level to Terra? So, I do understand, like I said, we talked before, I do understand the Terra Torn sentiment. I don't think Terra Blast Flying is what sets it over the top. I really don't. I actually typically think that either like super offensive nasty plot like Gaina typing sets are good, and I think like defensive typings like Steel and Water and things like that are also really good. Terra Flying like Specs is strong and it's a cool secondary option. I don't know if that's what makes it broken, and I don't think we allow things, or I don't think it's on the same level of other Terra bans. I think it would be like the worst Terra ban in the sense of like the worst Terra Pokemon that is not allowed to Terra, if it were Terra ban. I think it's a valid discussion point, but I don't think for the reasons that you're saying here. Next up, we have Didi here saying, I would ban Celesteela from every format ever. Anytime I do a Twitter discussion, I feel like Didi's usually yelling about Celly. Not broken. I mean, Gen 7 still is like a top 3 Mon, but it's been a while. Here's the next one. We have Frito here saying, one of the Mons I've hated prepping the most is Zamasi. Yes, I understand the farm allows you to counter build for it, but sometimes it requires so damn much. Yeah, I mean, that's literally it. So this is like the opposite side of it. Don't allow this guy. He's broken. I agree. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. For this exact reason. Yes, you can build for it, but they can build for you, man. It's not like they don't know what you got, right? Next is Unban Terra Darkrai. Hell no. Hell no. I am of the firm opinion that Darkrai is an incredible Pokemon. Anybody who tells you that it's not is just draft league hive-minded, and they are beyond saving. I was playing a DFL matchup in week 2 where I had a Klefki, and in my mind I was like, sick, one of the best Darkrai checks in the game. The move Hypnosis makes me so bad. Smogon Draft had this big wave of like wanting to ban Sleep. I think Sleep was uncompetitive, and I thought it was such a silly concept. And then I played this Darkrai matchup, and I was like, okay, there might be spitting right now. I don't think Sleep Clause is a good idea, or Sleep Ban is a good idea. I think banning Hypnosis on Darkrai is damn everything. The Pokemon is so cheesy, so bullshit, so strong, deceptively bulky to where it gets the free turn, and it forces out so much to where it gets those free turns to click Mickey Hypnosis very often. Oh my gosh, it feels unpunishable. It's very broken. So now when I can Terra that guy and give it Terra Blast and have it just be like Terra Electric against my Klefki to where I can't T-Wave it, it just nasty plots and Terra Blast and kills me. I'm good. I'm good. Keep that guy far away from me. Lock him up. Lock him up. Next up is Owen Audio saying, assuming we're talking about standard Smogon Amon format, looking at the latest tier list, I'd say it's mostly perfect. Only thing I consider test worthy is Terra Bundle or Terra Lucky. In 9 to 11, they range from pretty good to not broken. Bundle to straight fraud lucky. That's just not true. Yeah. And shouts to Orin, he's the GOAT. Love Orin, great guy. That's just not true. That's not true. In 9 to 11, I don't see them allowed. At least in any Terra Bundle and Terra Lucky, super broken. In 8 Mon, they'd be even more ridiculous because you can't draft a random Mickey Mon with your 10th pick that can soft check them or something like that, right? I super disagree. These guys need no buffs. Next up here is Seahawks here saying ban Deoxys Speed. For a Pokemon that's known for its incredible speed stat, you don't need all that much speed in draft leagues, and you can find better use of EVs for such as attack and defense stats. Also, it's an incredible move pool and tons of utility. Overall, hard on the platform. So, I used to actually be on like a ban Deoxys Speed train, but the more and more I've played the format, the more and more I realize it's actually kind of like a round 2 pick. Or like a late round 1 pick, like a wheel guy. I love Dio. I think it's absolutely incredible for literally the reasons you said, but the lack of power does end up showing a lot of matchups, and the lack of bulk does end up showing. EVs can only get you so far, and I don't think that in such a power cut metagame that is the case, or that that's do enough at this point anymore. I do think it's really incredible. I do think people sleep on it really heavy. There's a lot of people who just don't think it's a good Pokemon, and I think that's incorrect. But I don't think it's quite bannable. It's a hard mon to prep for sure. But as the number 1 Deoxys Speed Glazer, at least that I've seen, someone who has banned it in Wi-Fi leagues and tournaments before, I think I can objectively say now. Here's Glop, echoing J-Bear's sentiment. He's correct. Ban OGalbina, because then other people could win more, and it would just be a more fair format. And then to round it out, we have Happy Gate here saying Valiant should be banned. See, the opposite. There we go. I like this. Phenomenal seasonal and DCL/Draft League World Cup results. The set is nearly impossible to figure out, and the biggest factor for me is that you get a good Terramon with it. The best SV teams have a good Terramon and a top tier that can't Terra. It's just not fair. I actually am on the agreement of like, I really like the team comp of like top tier Terrapan Pokemon and then Terra Pokemon after. I actually really like that. Again, my favorite team that I've used in DCL so far, or I've only used 2 teams, or DFL, sorry. Not quite there yet. Is I used the Tarot, Roaring Moon, who are both Terraban, plus like Iron Moth, Gliscor, like the mid-tier Terras. And then the other team I used was the Valiant team. It was Valiant, Dio Speed, and then my Terra guys were Goldango, Ogerpon, Cornerstone. I love that team comp, and I do think that's an important thing to keep in mind is when we get these top tier Terra guys, there are still great Terra captains in that round 3 to 4 range that you can grab because other people are biting on the Raging Bolts of the world and things like that. So I do think that's like just kind of the plus to getting that high pick and getting that Valiant. I do agree that it can be hard to lock down what set Valiant can use in a game because there usually are 2 to 3 multiple sets that can be good. And if there's any Pokemon, well, I don't know if I agree that Valiant should be banned right now. If there's any Pokemon currently in SV that needs to be either banned or unbanned, I do agree that it is Iron Valiant. It should be at least maybe discussed a little bit more. It is consistent 1-1. Anything else is usually a throw. And then like 2 to 5 is actually super, super varied depending on you know, what you think. And I think that means it's at least worth like kind of looking and evaluating. Like, okay, this guy's just leagues better than everybody else. Should it still be allowed kind of thing? So just something to keep in mind. I think, yeah, I think it was a pretty fun list. I think we actually kind of covered all the main guys. I think people really could kind of have a qualm with. If you have any Pokemon that weren't mentioned today or any Pokemon you want to echo the sentiment of, or if you want to drop an argument for something I said that you thought was stupid, drop it down in the comments below. I always love having these discussions. I think it's a lot of fun. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Again, so if you're new, I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.